like I had failed in my first career, and that was really devastating. But now it's like
there's such high expectations.
Yeah, and I hate the use of this word, but you've got to learn. You've got to fail learn.
Welcome to Breaking the Binary, brought to you by Newcastle Women and Gender Diverse People in Tech. We're your hosts, Arden Jarrett
and Sarah Frazer.
And this episode's all about Sarah.
Yay!
Before we interview some lovely members of our community, I wanted to make sure that people knew who were interviewing them. And our listeners know who we are because we run these events. But I realise that we've never really got up and talked about ourselves.
I'm not good at adding context to my chaotic energy.
We love the chaotic energy. So, yeah, this is just an opportunity for people to get to know us. But first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the Wabakal and Worimi people, who's traditional custodians of the land we're recording on today. We pay respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations Australians on whose lands you are listening from today. So we have a couple sponsors to thank. Number one, thanks to the podcast studio Nui Tech. Also for the free pizza and the venue for all of our meetup events.
Whoop, whoop.
It's, very useful to have somewhere to meet and someone to record these. Also thanks to the Port of Newcastle and MGA Thermal. As you'll find out, Sarah works for Nui Tech people and I work for MGA Thermal. Both of our organisations are committed to diversity and we're very pleased to have their support. So as I said, Sarah, we're talking about you today.
So excited.
That's all right. And I know we can chat for hours, as we already have because we've recorded a couple episodes of these already. But we're going to try to keep on topic. And relatively to time because as I've also found out, we can chat to other people too, and then we need to split the episodes into two. So
we've just got so many thoughts just bubbling away back there.
That's it. There's some good banter that happens, but it may not necessarily be relevant.
Yep.
Fun, maybe not relevant. So first off, we're doing a few quick questions at the start of our podcasts. And that's an opportunity to get to know a bit more about the person and what they enjoy doing before we kind of dive into their career. First, what are your pronouns, Sarah?
She/her.
What's a random fact about yourself?
I have double jointed elbows, which whilst I will demonstrate now, doesn't translate well for a podcast.
I'll zoom in for the video option.
It's really gross. They just basically flip either way, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. I'm bad at archery because my elbow sticks out and then you get the...
I can relate. I have similar things and just trying to throw a ball and you kind of get taught to throw it when your arm extends. But if you do that, you actually lose the momentum because your arm's overextended. And then you're
I never thought about that. Yeah. I am terrible at sports and I'm willing to blame that as the reason why.
That's what I do. What's something you're proud of?
I recently hatched butterflies. I don't know.
I saw this online.
So I
nurtured.
Nurtured butterflies from caterpillar stage. I found a bunch of orchid swallowtail butterflies on my little baby lime and lemon trees.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that won't do because they're babies. And
how did you identify what type of caterpillars they were?
Well, one, I'm a huge nerd, and two, I spent a lot of time looking at different pictures of caterpillars.
That's fair.
And they were on the citrus trees, which is a very specific food for caterpillars. So instead of killing them, because I love bugs and I love my plants, I brought them inside and then raised them into butterflies using citrus leaves from my mum and dad's much bigger trees. And they actually hatched into, I don't know what the word is. Hatch doesn't feel right, but they turned into chrysalises. Eyes, and then became butterflies, and I got to release them again.
Oh, nice! I was going to ask what you, going into the butterflies.
I mean, they're definitely going to lay more eggs on my citrus trees, and the cycle will begin again. Yeah,
it's very exciting.
But it was a lot of fun, and I'm actually shocked that it worked. So happy days.
What do you do to relax on your days off?
Relaxing is a concept that I find very difficult because my brain is just constantly at 110%. So I usually do stuff.
I mean, there's kind of why we're here, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes. So I'm like big on the crafts. I like to
Yep.
sew. I've taught myself how to crochet poorly. I built my own computer, so I play lots of little nerd games.
Yeah, awesome. Always doing something.
Yeah, always
Yeah.
doing something like a
Yeah.
low energy activity, but it
Yeah.
has to be a thing.
Yeah.
People who are just like, yeah, I just sat in the bath with my thoughts.
Honestly, even just like watching TV, I'm like, just
Mm,
watching
yeah,
TV? You're not like doing something at the same time?
you need to be duly like I need to
Yeah.
have something
It's
to
like
do with my
crocheting's
hands.
good.
Yeah.
I love jigsaw puzzles. They're pretty good for like,
Jigsaw puzzles are a lot
yeah,
of fun. So
little dopamine clicks every time you get a.
I have 3 cats and they really love to eat the pieces, which
That's
doesn't
fair.
help when you think that, oh my god, I'm so close to finishing, and then you realize 5 of the pieces are gone and probably in the kitty litter tray. So so good.
um, so you have 3 cats.
Yeah.
What are their names?
Totally normal amount of cats. Beans,
Yep.
Lionel, and Bethany.
Yeah. What else do these cats like to do?
They like to eat all of my plants. I have about 150 plants at home,
Yeah, not
and
bad.
they're all cat safe.
Yeah.
Because I spent a lot of time researching what plants are cat safe. Fun fact: a lot of indoor plants
Yeah.
not good for cats. It's like calcium oxalate or something
Oh.
in monsteras and different brachias or however you say it. I'm also cripplingly dyslexic, so like saying plant names out loud.
You're doing a better job than me. I just don't even attempt those plant names.
Epipriums, sigoniums, they're all not cat safe.
Big words.
Yeah, so just like peperomas and calatheas and palms. Pretty much what
Palms
you can
are,
get.
yeah.
Palms are a good one.
Yeah. We bought a balm together, and that was the only plant I said to my cat. I was like, you'd be able to eat this one. And
Yeah.
she wandered up and took a giant bite out of it. And I was like, hang on, I don't want you to start eating my plants.
My cats do love the palms the most. They're the ones
Yeah.
that they eat. Something about the texture. I don't
Yeah.
know. But they came in as rescues. So there was like the mum cat and her 5 kittens. And
Yeah.
then adopted out 3 of the kittens and kept 2 of them. So originally I only meant to have 2 cats. But I already had the mum cat, and I felt really sad about giving her up because she was such a good girl that I
That's
just
fair.
kept her.
And then they can like all live as a family.
Yeah, the little buddies. They sleep
Yeah.
together every day. It's very
Very
cute.
Very cute.
So,
We'll kick off a bit more about what you do for a career.
woohoo.
What would you define your tech as?
You see, this is a weird one because
Yeah.
I originally came in as a data nerd, and I still identify as a data nerd. So I did like a data analytics and a data science grad cert, but I'm more in like revenue ops kind of operations now. Like, I don't know, biz tech, I guess you could call it.
Ooh.
I don't know if that's a word. I've just made it up.
I don't know. I love like just adding tech to the end of everything.
Yeah. So I like do a lot of the like technical underpinnings of how the business operates, but also a lot of the business processes.
Yeah.
And the HR stuff and a whole bunch of. I mean, we're only a company of 12 people,
Yeah.
so I have the luxury of being able to do a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely love that as part of like a growing or a small company.
Yeah.
Wearing many hats.
Yes, exactly. I've got to constantly change it up, otherwise I'll get bored.
So what do you do now?
Yep.
And then we're going to go into how you got here.
Right. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I'm head of operations manager / ops.
Go,
king.
yeah, exactly. Go
Um,
for the head of operations.
I keep trying to get wizard in my title,
Yeah.
like an operations wizard. So far, my boss has said no. So petition
You
to
know,
James McDonald to
keep
allow me
trying.
to change it.
Yeah. One day.
Yeah. So as I said, like I do all of the ops stuff
Yeah.
for the business. Absolutely love it. I originally came into the business because I had done my data analytics course, and I would go on to do my data science course, and they had this problem where they had this database full of information, but they weren't sure where the data was living, what kind of consistent processes they had, or even really how to use it and get the most value out of this database that they'd invested in. So my whole role originally was meant to only be 6 months, was to just come in and sort it out. And then
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and I can sort this out too, and this out, and this out. And I eventually just picked up so many pieces that I think it was like 3 months in when they
Yeah.
offered me a full-time contract saying, please don't leave us.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which is really nice.
Yeah. How did you like find new tech people to begin with? How did you get that 6-month contract that got you in the door?
Yeah, so it was through connections. I know in the last podcast we went over how important it is to know people in the
Knowing
space,
people. Yeah.
and that is how I got my job as well.
Yeah.
It was through a friend who worked here at the time and identified the gap, and then thought, oh, I know Sarah's doing something that is relevant and might help.
Mm.
And then set up that first initial meeting with James, and then went on to meet Linda, the two directors, and the rest is history. So network with
Yeah.
people, even if it's not relevant at the
It's a little
time.
lesson there.
Yeah, you never
Yeah.
know when it's going to come around to be a really cool opportunity.
I think people also see how genuine you are, and this is something that's a big benefit of Newcastle too.
Yeah.
That people just want to help people and they just want to connect with people, and you don't need to have an immediate reason why you're connecting.
Yeah.
But then people know what you do, and they might have something in the future where they're like, oh, this might suit Sarah perfectly. Also, if they see that you're a brilliant young woman and they're like, yes, we love more women and gender diverse people in this space. So then they're like, well, we want to promote more young minds to join this space and to have these awesome roles. And so, yeah, important to network.
And I hated networking at the start,
Yeah.
especially in my last role. And it was only really recently that I was having a chat with my partner, and he was like, oh, networking's really just finding people you like and having a chat with them or connecting with people.
Yeah.
You don't have to be selling anything. And I think that's a really important. I know I struggled at the beginning because I was like, I don't want to have to sell myself.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to sell anything else. I just want to talk to people, to find out what they're like, to have a bit of a laugh.
And no one knows yourself better than you.
Yeah.
And I think particularly when you're passionate about what you do, that really shines through. And then people are drawn to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, tip number 1 for networking, just be a nice person,
and then,
and it will be fine.
Also, everyone else is just a person.
Yeah. Everyone is scared.
Yeah. Maybe everyone's not as scared about networking, but I found very helpful when going on work calls. It's like, I know about this stuff, even if I don't know as much as other people in the company in terms of the technology or the technical background. I still know more than the person on the call, and all they want to know is more.
Yeah.
And they just want to talk to me, and they're just a person, and I'm just sharing what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, just think about it as sharing.
Yeah, don't think I hated the pushy networking, and that is a good thing because it doesn't work, especially not in Newcastle.
Yes.
I don't think.
Yes. No, I don't think so. So you mentioned a previous job, and I know how you got here wasn't particularly straightforward. You didn't set out to become a data nerd.
No.
What did you set out to do? What is your degree in? Yeah, where did you start?
So this is a convoluted but fun story. So when I was in high school,
it's the origin story.
Yeah, the origin story. It's my villain origin story, depending on how the rest of my life goes. So I started out in high school and I realized that I really love science. It was about year 10 that this light bulb dawned on me that holy shit, science is awesome. So I did all 3 units of science in my HSC. I would have done 6 units, I guess, 3 subjects, only because you were only allowed to do a maximum of 6 units.
Yeah, oh well.
Would have done
so
more.
You would have done more.
Yeah, I would have done Earth
just the whole
environmental
HSC.
science.
And
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about English.
Nothing but it was literally math and science and then mandatory English was where my HSC was at. And I was looking forward to going into just an advanced Bachelor of Science. That's kind of what I wanted to do. And I went to a science camp in year 11 and I met a whole bunch of people. And a lot of the feedback I got was that science was really hard. You have to be really smart. You have to be really
you're already
focused.
doing 8 units of it.
Yeah. And I got into my head a lot about whether I was capable or not. I'd only ever met one woman scientist, and she was really horrible to me about my chances of getting into science. I think probably because of her own negative experiences.
Yeah.
And that just completely threw me for a 6. And I thought, okay, well, I still love science.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I should go into just that.
I think in the past, this is the case for business, I found anyway, it's when there is so few positions for women and it is so hard for women to get it in.
Yeah.
That it's it is competitive. And I can see why in the past women have discouraged other women, to be clear. Not like that now.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
We're working towards it not being like that.
Yeah, and the other thing I was good at, which is ironic because I am dyslexic, is writing. I
And
write
doing the
quite
standard
well.
English.
Yeah, like the sentences read well if someone else has edited them for me.
Yeah.
It's
No,
usually the
I
way.
totally get that.
So I went in and I thought, okay, well, science and comms feels like a good thing to do because I like communicating, I like telling people about science, and I love the science
It's
itself.
a whole skill too, like
Yeah.
communicating complex science topics in a way that other people or people without a technical background can understand.
Yeah, and it's always been something that I've loved, like breaking
Mm.
down complex stuff in a way that's very accessible.
Mm.
So I went to the University of Wollongong. Shout out to UOW,
Mm.
because they're the only university in New South Wales that offers science and communications as a double degree.
I
Um,
love the dedication. So you went to high school here
yep, in
and then
Newcastle.
went to Wollongong for
Yeah, went
uni
to
to do
Wollongong.
this degree that you really wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I can see why other people don't offer it as a double because there is literally no overlap,
Yeah.
whatsoever. So I spent 4 years doing that. Did a bunch of like little hustles. Was part of a little media company. Did science videos, whatever,
Mhm.
and then at the end, got the piece de resistance job of science communication, which was a communications advisor, or initially a student, like a student vacation scholarship at CSIRO.
Very
So
cool.
they're
Because in
yes,
my head,
yeah,
love CSIRO.
they're
They
like
do some cool stuff.
they do a lot of cool
Yeah.
stuff. And I came there as a student for 3 months, and they liked what I did.
Mhm.
So they gave me a contract in their brand and marketing department, and that was a lot of fun. And then I started to work in this technology accelerator program, which was it was interesting. I
Mhm.
would say I learned a lot.
And fun fact, that accelerated program is where Sarah and I met.
Yeah, so a lot
Yeah.
of good came out of it at the
Yeah.
end. I describe my time there as a trial by fire.
Mm.
Um, and I definitely realized what I wanted in a career and what I had wasn't it.
Yeah.
And I took a long time to actually mourn the fact that I got this dream job on paper and I didn't like it. And that
Yeah.
felt really like hollowing, like, oh, well, I've achieved the most I could have imagined to achieve at this point, and I'm not happy with it. And I'm so early on in my career and now I don't know what to do.
Mm.
Like, how do I even pick something else when I got the thing that I wanted the most and it was horrible?
I think in my head, I definitely had a bit of like an ideal where you
Mm,
like left or you found your dream job
yeah.
or like your dream role title, and then you were like happy or something.
Yeah. Everyone keeps saying do something you love
Yeah.
and you'll never work a day in your life. But how do you know
Yeah.
what that is?
And like, there's always going to be hard days. There's always
Yeah.
parts of jobs that you don't particularly love doing.
Mm.
So,
I would say your team makes a massive difference. So find
yeah.
people you want to work with as well. Because whilst your
Mhm.
job always isn't great, the people that you work with makes such a huge difference.
Mhm.
So when I left, actually, I tried to resign
Mm.
halfway through 2020, which was just an interesting year for so many reasons.
Yeah, that's
Like we
true.
had COVID, my dad had a stroke, I had this workplace breakdown, and I
But
was just
he's okay now.
he's okay now.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
It
good.
was a
And
little stroke, so it's fine.
you're okay now after I
Yeah.
just glazed over the workplace breakdown thing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
workplace breakdown, of course. Yeah. And I tried to resign, and my management structure was such that my direct manager didn't even have any idea that I was at the point where I just wasn't interested. I
Mm.
didn't have a job lined up,
Yeah.
but I was like, I
You're
can't
like,
do
can't do it
this
anymore.
anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there's all these too many things.
Yeah.
And they talked me down from the ledge. They said, please don't quit. Just see it out because I had 6 months left on my contract.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do 3 days a week instead of a full week, and then I'm going to study because
Yeah.
at least then, rather than just battling it out in a role that made me miserable and I cried in the bathroom all of the time,
Mm.
I was building towards something else. Like
And there's a plan.
yeah, there's a plan, and that plan was doing a grad cert in data analytics.
Mhm.
I picked data analytics because I saw all of the grad certs that the government were offering for free,
Yeah, 2020.
or for discounted prices, many
Yeah.
discounts. And I saw data science, and I
Mm.
thought, shit, I like science.
It's the same thing, right?
It's basically the same thing. And I read the entry criteria, and I was like, oh, I don't have prerequisite skills to do that, but I can do data analytics. And
Mm.
that was kind of like the yeehaw way that I'd picked it, because I just had no ability to even think about what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and I'm sure you just needed something
Yeah.
else to focus on that was
Yeah.
different.
I just wanted some light at the end of the tunnel, like some
Yeah.
way out of what I was doing. Because at that point, I didn't want to do
Yeah.
communications at all
Yeah.
ever again.
And 2020 was already so crushing and like
Yeah.
unknown. Plus, like, yeah, having struggles in like the environment of your workplace is not
It was like
fun
every
at all.
single facet of my life was on fire. So much fun.
Like that meme with like the this is fine and
Yeah.
the whole house is on fire.
That was me. So I did data analytics and I loved it. I fell head over heels in love with it. I started going to the Hunter Data Analytics meetup, which is actually how
Mm,
I reconnected with the friend that ended up getting me the job as well. So shout out to going to meetups that are
yeah,
relevant for you.
connections,
Yeah.
networking.
You never know how it's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
And here I am now, and I love my job. And
Mm,
I've worked really hard on creating a safe, psychologically safe, accessible workplace where everyone feels welcome and encouraged to do their best work.
mm,
Because I've learned what bad looks like,
mhm.
in the nicest way possible. And I just don't want that for
Yeah.
anyone ever again if I have the ability to do
Yeah,
something better.
exactly. I think as much as it sucks, a lot of our best learning experiences can come from yeah, the environment that we're in. And I've certainly had some managers where I'm like, well, I know I won't be doing that thing when I'm a manager.
That is a great learning of what never to do again.
Yeah. Thanks for teaching me that. So it's great to have that background. And I wanted to say, you shared a post on
Mm.
LinkedIn last year, and I'm going to call it semi viral because you got hundreds of likes on
It's
it.
the closest I'm ever going to come to being viral, I think.
Well, let's not call it,
Yeah,
Sarah.
right. This podcast might explode.
um, but yeah, and you shared an experience you had when you were working for CSIRO. And I think that might be one of the drivers as to why you're so passionate about women and gender diverse people in tech. Can you like share that?
Yeah. So I'm guessing the one you're referring to is it was kind of at the beginning of my career. So I
Mm.
looked even younger than I do now. I know this is a podcast, but I have quite a what I describe as doughy face, which makes me look like a little
Lovely,
baby. And that's all
youthful.
right. I rock it. But as a result, I look quite young. And I looked
Mm,
obviously even younger when I
mm,
was younger. That's usually how it works.
mm.
um, so it was like this young woman at the beginning of her career at a CSIRO all staff conference.
Mm,
And CSIRO, I think if you like just did it average out, the gender diversity is pretty good. But if you section it out by like communications versus research,
yeah,
there would be a much larger stratification of
yeah.
where the genders are. Like communications was mostly women.
I think that's why
Um,
those reports are so important
yeah.
because, yeah, it can be super, or it's like women are only in supporting roles and men are in like
Oh,
the
sorry.
senior
Mostly
roles.
women until you got to the executive manager level, and then it was
Okay, yep, even better.
glossing over that one. And I was there just chilling out, and admittedly, I was wearing a white shirt and black pants because I was, at a work
Yeah,
event. And one of the senior leaders turned around and just saw me at a glance and tried to hand me a plate because he thought I was a waitress,
nice.
which is so good. And admittedly, I don't think like there was no malicious
Yeah,
intent. It was just that he wasn't used to seeing people like me working for the organization.
it's the biases that
Yeah, it was like
exist.
a totally like just subconscious bias
Yeah,
that existed within his brain that if there's a young woman there,
she must be
she's
there to help.
yeah, she must be there to help.
Yeah,
So that was like initially when it happened, and then reflecting back on it, I was really angry, and then I came to the realization that he didn't
mm,
like there was never malicious intent, and I think as much as the bias sucks, it's really important to focus on intent as well
yeah,
because people without malicious intent
Yeah.
can learn
Yeah.
and can improve
Yeah.
and can get extra exposure to people that don't look like them and get better. And everyone is on a journey of getting better. But it's the people that act with malicious intent that have dug their heels in.
Well, they've just said, I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah, like, this is
And
fine.
they
Yeah.
stick to their values because they think that, I don't know, they're justified in I mean, people can have an opinion, but it's sort of worth creating space where everyone feels like they can have an opinion and be heard.
And I mean, changing is hard work. Like, I still make mistakes with how
everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah, what words I use in the workplace.
Yeah.
How I show up, and I'm constantly learning from that. And it is hard work. And if you are one of those people that could just throw up their hands and say, no, actually, everything's great here, thanks.
Yeah.
It would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
For them.
Yeah. So was that experience one of the things that ignited your passion for advocating for this cause?
Yes, yep, it was. I think I've kind of had a weird background in the fact that when I was growing up, my mother was the breadwinner, my father was a stay-at-home dad. So I had a lot of experience with strong women in the workplace anyway. And in the end, Mum did leave her workplace because it was a boys' club, and she just was sick of it. And watching that process as a kid was really painful. And getting into the workplace and realizing that 20 years on, those challenges are still the same.
It really sucks.
Yeah.
And I don't think people who haven't experienced it can really add to it because it's like, you don't know unless you have experienced it. And that the crushing reality of like, my mother experienced this and I still have to put up with some of this. Like, how have we come so far? But there's still so much to do.
And it's easy to feel overwhelmed, like things are still totally cooked. Why even try? But I am the kind of person that when they get stressed or anxious, they get busy, like doing stuff. And I just really wanted to make a tangible impact and start shifting that needle so that maybe when I have kids, they don't have to experience that at all. Like, that will be something that they read about, like, oh, that must have sucked for women back then. That would be ideal. So definitely from an early age, I was always incredibly aware of it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, you're very conscious about making an improvement.
Yeah.
What do you love most about doing your role now or your side projects? Like, what gets you out of the bed in the morning?
It's very hard for me to get out of bed in the morning. I'm not a morning person.
We're recording this fairly early.
Yeah, and it was a struggle.
10 a.m.
Yeah, I love the variety. I love being able to help people. And I think that's something that's so weird because I am so socially anxious and I have been my whole life. And when I feel like I'm helping people, that really helps me step out of my own head.
Yep.
Like, I'm thinking about how can I make things better for other people rather than, oh my God, what if people are looking at me? What if they've noticed that I have cat fur all over my shirt? What if I've drunk a cappuccino and given myself like a little mustache? I do that every time.
Mustache.
I keep going out for networking coffees and I get a cappuccino every time. Every time I come home with a chocolate mustache. I have learned nothing.
So if you have a networking coffee with Sarah.
Yes. I'm sorry in advance. But yeah, and like, I get to shape a workplace that I want to be in.
Yeah.
At work. And I get to make like operations, especially my role is very much about making the business work better for the people in the business.
Yeah.
And as much as I struggle sometimes with getting out, like I'm a crippling introvert, being able to help people is weirdly somewhere that I've found a lot of energy, and I haven't didn't expect that. So and that kind of leaks into all of my side projects as well. Like, that's why we do this.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing to be able to help people.
I can definitely relate to that because it's like, I want to do things. I don't really want to be the person up the front presenting the thing, but it's like super want to like put things together and make stuff happen. But if I'm the one who has to lead it, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
But like, if someone else wants that, then like, go for it.
That's why we're great at presentations, because I'm just like,
we're always like, do you want to do it?
Weirdly enough, talking to crowds doesn't bother me. Talking one-on-one is where I get way more stressed.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. I would so much prefer to connect with someone one on one. As soon as there's more than one person, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't like read you as a dynamic and I don't know where I fit into this conversation anymore.
Oh.
And then like all of that social stuff, it's like,
No, I'm
yeah,
like, let me MC an event.
yeah,
Please do not
I'll give
ask
you
me
the
any
floor.
follow-up questions one-on-one afterwards.
You're like funny too as an MC. Yeah,
Yeah, oh god.
you're great. It's
I'm
like one of
something.
those skills. You should put that on like your LinkedIn like headline now, being like
Yes. I'll get
MC for
people to,
hire.
if you're listening to this, endorse me for MCing on LinkedIn. I don't know
Yeah,
how you
no,
spell
I
it,
should.
so that might be a problem.
We'll Google it.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the description box so you can do it.
So good.
So you're clearly passionate about making things and helping people. What are some of the ways that you do that? And I know we've already mentioned Newcastle Women and Gender Diverse People in Tech, but I have another one in mind that you
Oh.
recently did.
Oh god. The technology conference?
That's it, yeah.
Right. I was like, ugh. Yeah, so we do Newcastle Women and Gender Diverse People in Tech, obviously.
Mhm.
I also am like pretty active in the Newcastle tech community space in general.
Yeah.
So the Newcastle tech community has a Slack called Newy
Yeah,
with
you do
three
that.
W's. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm an admin on there, so you know
Yeah.
I've made it.
Very cool. Should have that on your LinkedIn bio too.
Professional Slack admin. And we recently had a conference, and I was part of the organizing committee. There were 5 of us, and we did this big tech conference, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
We had like 350 people that attended
amazing.
over 2 days,
Yep.
and it's been really cool to position Newcastle as a city that has its own tech community and is a place that you can succeed in tech, and you don't have to move to Sydney
Absolutely.
or Melbourne or wherever else. You can stay here and have plenty of opportunities as well. Mostly selfishly because I don't want to have to move either.
That's actually coming up next.
Yeah.
Why Newcastle? Why do you love it here? Why don't you want to move, Sarah?
So I actually grew up in the Central Coast until I was about 8.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
found this out last night. I was like, wait, you're a coastie? We love Central Coast people, but come to
Yeah.
Newcastle.
Yeah. I find Sydney really stressful. Like I'm such a bush kid. I didn't like. I've always grown up in houses that have been surrounded by gum trees.
I need to know where the sun is to know what time it is.
Yeah.
There's too many city buildings in the way.
I actually really do struggle. Like once I had to stay for a week in the CBD of Sydney, and I struggled with the lack of trees.
Yeah.
There was just not enough green. Like at the moment, my house, my veranda is just in the treetops, and that's kind of always where I've lived. I've really resonate with green spaces. I find them very calming. And it's something that I need to exist around. So that's one of the big benefits of Newcastle is that we have so much nature.
Yeah.
I live like a 5-minute walk away from Blackbutt, which is awesome. It's like a national park. I don't know, state park, whatever it is.
We've got to note at this podcast too, because we haven't mentioned it yet. You prefer the trees, not the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm a freshwater river, up at Gloucester Tops kind of lady.
Yeah.
River rocks don't get in your bed. It's nice and easy. And it has everything that you need here. Like Newcastle is big enough to have what you want without being so big that traffic gets crazy and everyone is really rude at train stations. Like no offense to everyone in Sydney, but everyone in Central Station needs to calm down.
Can I just also say, whenever I'm commuting in a city, everyone looks like they don't want to be alive. Like, it just looks like complete, I don't know, zombie. Like, I just don't want to commute. Like, I don't know what are they thinking about?
Like I've had
nothing.
a few comments from my friends that live in Sydney that everyone in Newcastle is just weirdly friendly.
Yeah.
And I think we are kind of like a country town that grew up, and that comes with its own challenges, obviously, like our diversity for people from different backgrounds isn't great. And we definitely have a ways to go with that compared to metropolitan centrals like Sydney. But yeah, I really do love it here. And I don't want to leave, mostly because I bought a house here as well, and I never want to move again.
That's a nice house.
Yeah.
You've got so many plants, you'd never be able to move them.
I know. I need a moving truck just for my plants, and that
probably two.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about this year?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I would have said the new conference.
Yeah, has
Because
been and gone. I mean,
yeah,
you'll notice we refer to it in a future episode. That's because Sarah was working on it at the time,
yeah.
and thought it was worth recognizing the enormous amount of work that you put into it to
Yeah.
make it happen. So yeah, congrats on pulling off a successful conference.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who
Yeah.
came as well. It obviously makes a difference. You were on a panel, which was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
look,
it
you
was
go.
last panel on the second day. So thank you everyone who was there because
Stayed around, yeah. So it's a tough one.
yeah, and then there was a massive thunderstorm afterwards. So
Yeah, that was
yeah.
also not ideal. I think I'm just excited to continue to just kick ass. I've been really lucky to be able to help a few people this year with connections.
Mm,
So I'm working in a recruitment agency and being as involved in the tech community as I am, just happen to know a fair few people and being able to help people that come to me saying, I'm trying to get into my career, or I want to do something else, or I'm
yeah.
looking for advice, and being like, oh, I can introduce you to some people that can help. And then
Yeah.
watching them go and do their best thing is really super exciting.
I remember you mentioning before a database. Is this like an actual physical database or is this like in your head?
It's a database in my head, which is
Yeah.
incredibly concerning because the data storage there is not good.
It might like overwrite one day.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Maybe I'll, upgrade to an Excel spreadsheet.
yeah, I do love LinkedIn like that, but then
Mm,
some like yeah, I from university was building my networks and
yeah.
connections, and so then like I have a fair few connections, and it's just like wait, hang on, like I've got to scroll through who was that person I met, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my database so far is okay in here, but if it gets a little bigger, I might have to
Mind
make.
Palace.
Yeah.
What would you tell your younger self?
This is yeah, I would tell my younger self it's okay to make mistakes in several ways. Like one, I always got really stressed if I wasn't immediately good at something as a kid
Yeah,
and would quit. And just like
yeah,
learning to fail and learning to be okay with failing
yeah,
is fine. And also, I guess it leaked into my career as well. Like I feel like I had failed in my first career, and that was really devastating. But
yeah.
now it's like,
There's such high expectations.
yeah, and I
Mm.
hate the use of this word, but you've got to learn. You've got to fail learn.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
I also I'm not sure like it speaks to me because I know I always hesitated to answer questions if I didn't know if I was going to be right.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like the small failures in like getting something wrong. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be big, but like just putting your hand up and you learn more that way. I think as much as you can be curious and we want to like thrive in curiosity when we're growing up, it's like that fear of failing or that fear of getting something wrong which can hold us back.
Yeah. And it's okay not to know everything. No one knows everything. And if
Yeah.
people who do say that they know everything are probably assholes.
I think that really shows that they don't know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just getting weird with it, being okay with making wrong turns
Mhm.
and learning from the process. Like as long as you learn something, it's all
Yeah.
good. Sometimes you just F up and you don't learn anything as well, and that's also all right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
Mhm.
guess in the process of knowing that you learned something, you were like, "Well, I'm not gonna do that again because that wasn't useful."
That was a
And
failure.
then you
Yeah, that's
learn.
all good. Yeah.
Um, so because you started out somewhere very different too,
Mhm.
if someone was looking to go into where you are now in, like, data operations in,
Yeah.
like, a business, what advice would you give there?
Give something a try, and if you enjoy it, follow that thread.
Mm,
Um, if you want to get into technology, there's obviously some really easy like tips you can give, which is develop a portfolio. Like
yeah,
do a thing in the tech that you want to do, whether it's a machine learning model with a free data set you got off the internet, or developing an app,
yeah,
or making a website, building it in the back end through WordPress, or whatever it is you want to do.
yeah,
Pick a project
yeah,
and then do it and see if you like it,
yeah,
because it's all well and good to do a certificate and do all this groundwork, but unless you've actually tried it out, it's hard to tell that you like it.
that's true, yeah.
And don't, I'm a terrible planner, so I'm not going to say don't plan if you're good at it. I'm sure that's nice. But don't be afraid to change direction when you realize something isn't what you thought it was,
Mm,
or you like something else better.
yeah,
Like I always thought, yes, I'm going to be strictly data. That's going to be awesome. And the more I got into it, the more I was like, oh, it's the operations and the business like processes and stuff that I really enjoy. And whilst
Yeah.
that's not strictly always data, and I like to throw some data in there as a little bit of spice,
Yeah.
I wasn't dead set on like, no, I'm not going to do that. I have to do data because this was something that I enjoyed.
Mm.
So I just followed that thread. And following the threads of stuff that makes you happy,
Yep.
rather than just picking like some dream job on paper, has been what's worked for me. So
Yeah,
maybe it'll work
absolutely.
for other people.
Yeah. Well, if you give it a go, let us know.
Yeah, tweet at us, even though we don't have a Twitter.
Like leave a comment on our meetup. No. We're both fairly active on LinkedIn.
Yep.
So yeah, potentially feel free to connect with us.
Yep.
Maybe add a little note that you've like listened to the podcast. Because as I said, like being people who network, sometimes you just get a lot of LinkedIn notifications and you're like, hang on, do I know?
Should I know this person?
Yeah. Well, that just about wraps us up, Sarah.
Yay.
So, yeah, you don't make me sound so happy. I had a great time. I learned some things about you.
That's good.
And I think maybe friends should interview each other more often.
Pro tip, have a formal podcast segment for all of your friends.
Yeah. Also, talking about LinkedIn, I think we need to add podcaster to our LinkedIn
Oh my
headline.
God. Everybody endorses for podcasting as a skill.
Well, I mean, I guess if you liked it. Also, if you liked it, leave a review. Maybe don't leave a review if you didn't like it.
Yeah, if you didn't like it, thank you so much. We're learning. We're doing it.
That's it. We're trying our best. We are open to feedback. And yeah, particularly in terms of like gender inclusive language and everything like that. Like we said, we're learning and we've only got our experiences to lean on. So please let us know because we can all teach each other.
Yeah, we can all, do better along the way.
Exactly. Follow Newcastle Women and Gender Diverse People in Tech on LinkedIn. Follow our meetup page. Add us to your podcast listening rotation. And we're super excited to continue this podcast series with you.
Whoop, whoop.
All right, you'll hear from us next time.
Thanks.
End on the whoop whoop.
Good. Great. Okay, that went way longer than I thought it was going to. Good stuff.
It was great though. What was that like?
Off to a great start.
That should just be the intro.